Senator Gallagher.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got some questions for the Minister. Senator Reynolds, you were appointed on the 30th of March as Minister for Government Services and Minister for the NDIS.
Yes.
Can you confirm you've made a successful application for legal assistance from the government in connection with an Australian Federal Police investigation?
I have.
Yeah. Can you confirm the application relates to your response to the alleged sexual assault of Ms Brittany Higgins in your ministerial office on the 23rd of March 2019?
Does it relate to the AFP investigation into that matter? Yes.
Why did you make the application?
I made the application because I was her employer and I'm an employee of the Commonwealth, and this is standard practice when you've got a matter such as this. So it was important, and I think that I get the statement done correctly
Senator Gallagher,
and appropriately.
Sorry, I know the Minister's answering the questions, but I'm just questioning relevance, because understanding Order 26.5, all questions to a committee must be relevant to the matter under inquiry.
Yep. And only Senator Reynolds can answer this in her, and the application was made with the portfolio responsibility she has, and this is the only place I can ask these questions.
In the case of estimate hearings, the matters under inquiry, the particulars proposed expenditure of departments and agencies which have been allocated to the committee. The Senate's
in charge of those.
Senate has resolved that any questions going to the operations or financial positions of the departments and agencies are relevant, and that provided the questions are asked in an orderly fashion and meet the test of relevance, the questions are in order. So
that's right.
How can you? Are we asking questions about what's actually on the table?
I'm asking the Minister responsible for government services under which an application for legal assistance, which is financial assistance, is being made under her portfolio.
Okay, so as long as the ministers are happy to answer the questions, but I note that she was.
It's actually the previous capacity.
Yeah, that's right. So
well, I'm getting to that. It was approved on the 30th of April, which is a month after your appointment in this portfolio.
I don't have the dates here with me, but that sounds about right. But what I'll do is I can take that on notice, Senator Gallagher, and make sure I've got the dates right.
Well, I think we got that in another hearing when it was tabled.
I suspect, actually, you might have it there with you, but I think the Attorney-General has tabled a statement in relation to that.
Yeah.
So have you got the Attorney-General's statement there?
I have.
Okay, well, I think I would defer to the Attorney-General's statement in terms of the detail.
Yeah. Well, this goes to my point because it was made a month after your appointment to this portfolio. And you are the only person that can answer these questions, and I've been following it through a number of committees where a number of ministers have answered questions on this, so it seems to me entirely reasonable that Senator Reynolds is able to.
The Minister is happy to answer
Thank you.
questions.
Do you have are you aware of whether there's a limit or a cap on the legal assistance?
Senator Gallagher, no, I'm not. But again, I can take that on notice, or you might actually want to ask the Attorney-General, who's the one whose responsibility this falls. So, Senator Gallagher, this is still an ongoing process. I'm still in contact with the AFP.
Yep.
So the matter has not yet concluded.
No, I understand that. But you, in terms of the approval of your application, you weren't given a limit as to what that assistance would be?
Not that I'm aware, Senator Gallagher. So I think it's... Anyway, have a look at I haven't got perhaps it might help you. I can... Or if you want to share the Attorney-General's statement on this matter.
It just says the date. It doesn't say whether there was a limit, which is my question. The date of approval was the 30th of April.
Look, unfortunately, you've got me at a disadvantage, Senator Gallagher, this time of the day. I don't have the details with me, so I'm happy to take that on notice. And if there's anything that's not in the statement that was tabled by the Attorney-General, I'm happy to provide that.
Okay. Are you aware about whether... or have you supported an application to fund any legal expenses for Ms Higgins as part of this matter?
Senator, that is absolutely not a question for me. I can only answer in terms of my own
circumstances. You're not aware of one? You're not aware of it?
Senator Gallagher, I can only answer questions in relation to me.
Yep.
But
exactly, but I'm asking if you are aware of any support or assistance that has been provided for
Senator Gallagher, I'm not aware, but neither would I expect to be made aware of that either.
And you've answered you remain you're assisting the AFP with its inquiries.
Yes.
They're ongoing.
Yes.
Are you aware if the police are investigating your conduct?
I have no exposure to what exactly, and in fact it wouldn't be appropriate for me to understand what the AFP is investigating. I've prepared a statement and I've provided details of that statement to the AFP.
Okay.
And as you know, I can't go into the detail of that.
Are you aware of whether they are investigating the conduct of your office?
Senator Gallagher, as I've said, I wouldn't expect to be briefed on the nature of their investigation, nor would it be appropriate for me to do so.
So you're not, the answer to that would be you're not aware?
No.
Yeah, okay.
I can't imagine any circumstance where it would be appropriate for me to have been made aware of that.
Okay, we have learned a few things through estimates, my estimates inquiries. One is that you were given a report by DPS on the 27th of March that you had requested. That was the advice of the Secretary of DPS.
Senator Gallagher, can I just make it very clear, and I think we've had this discussion in the Senate chamber a couple of weeks ago, is I've got very clear advice that all of these matters are subject of my statement and my discussions with the AFP, and in terms of the detail, including the detail you're now asking for, I cannot discuss here because it goes to the absolute heart of the AFP inquiry.
So you getting a report from the DPS, an incident report from DPS on the 27th, and what you did with that report is subject to the police
all of those,
investigation.
as we went through in the Senate, I think the last sitting week or the first sitting week of the last fortnight, all of those issues relate to the same matter, and they're all subject of my statement to the AFP, and I cannot.
Well, perhaps if I ask the question and then you say that's subject to the AFP. So my question about that is, why did you ask DPS for the incident report?
Senator Gallagher, as I've said, you can keep asking me questions in relation to that.
I will.
You have asked. Well, in fact, subject to what the chairs, because I think now the chair was quite generous in allowing you to do this.
I don't think you need the chair's protection for this.
Senator Gallagher.
Senator Reynolds, Senator Birmingham has faced 2 days of questions on this, and it wasn't in his office. I think it's entirely reasonable, and I am trying to be reasonable. I've got a series of questions. If I ask them and you say I'm not in a position to answer, I will leave it there.
If the chair, it's up to the chair's ruling about what questions get asked.
As I've said previously, that.
Sorry, Senator Wong, you weren't here when the chair gave a ruling.
I was raising an issue. No, I wasn't here.
Sorry.
I've been in
Senator Wong, did you have a point?
Yeah, my point simply is a senator can't be prevented from asking a question. The minister can choose how she answers it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said, Senator Wong.
And earlier I had
any question.
No, you sought the chair's protection.
Sorry, Senator Gallagher.
Sorry, can I just clarify? Earlier I did make the point to the committee that questions needed to go to the operational financial positions of the department and the agencies. However, we did ask, and the minister did agree to answer those questions. So, provided she is still happy to continue to answer those questions, but if she's answering in her way, and that is that it's a matter for the police investigation, I'm happy to accept that.
Sure.
Okay. So, the reason you asked for the incident reports from DPS, you are saying that is subject to police investigation?
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Anything surrounding the incidents that we're discussing now, and you've been discussing over the last 2 weeks at various estimates, are subject of my statement to the AFP and are relevant to the inquiry, and I will not prejudice that inquiry.
Well, I've got some questions around the termination of the staff member from your office and the meetings that were held across ministerial offices about that termination.
So, Senator Gallagher, again, those all
go.
They are at the heart.
They are not subject.
They are all at the heart. They absolutely are.
Well, others have answered them. Others have answered it.
But Senator Gallagher, with respect, as you well know, I am the one. It was in my office, and I'm the one who is discussing this with the AFP, and I'm providing a statement. So other ministers and other officials are not in the situation that I'm in. So in that case, I have very clear legal advice and advice from the AFP. So you can ask questions in relation to this, but I will not. As I said in the Senate when I first was asked these questions by Senator Wong and others, I will not prejudice this case.
Well, can we
you
have
can
the
ask
legal
the questions
advice
now whether
or
you
the
should,
AFP advice
now
or
whether
both?
you should ask the AFP Commissioner's advice is on
he
the
has
public
answered
record.
questions. He has answered questions about this. As has Senator Birmingham, as has Mr Gaetjens, as has Mr Stefanik.
Senator Gallagher,
they've all answered questions based on fact.
Senator Gallagher,
Senator Gallagher, would you like to ask questions and we'll just
assisting,
work our way through them?
I'm still assisting the AFP with their inquiries on this matter.
Well, so is
Not,
DPS.
I will not prejudice this case.
Well, you seem to have a tougher or a higher standard of what you are prepared to say, which is nothing,
Senator
compared
Gallagher.
to what others who have appeared before here have been prepared. Even the President of the Senate has made it clear on matters of fact, on dates, on events,
Senator Gallagher,
they are prepared. That is provided guidance by the AFP and ACT Policing. They have been prepared to answer. So what you're telling us is that there is a higher standard or a tougher standard that simply applies to you and no other official.
No, Senator Gallagher, I am not saying that at all. I am simply saying that you have the right to ask me the questions. Now, whether you should is entirely a matter for you.
What does that mean?
But that does not mean I am going to breach any. I'm not going to potentially compromise. I'm not going to potentially compromise this investigation, because if I did that, you and Senator Wong would be the first ones to attack me for potentially jeopardising this inquiry. So,
well, in light of your evidence, I think you must produce the advice you have from the AFP and your legal advice that says you are not able to answer any questions about
that
this.
advice is on the public record.
So you haven't got specific advice?
So, Senator Gallagher, that advice is on the public record about what we can and can't say. I'm not going to prejudice the inquiry. It is as simple as that, Senator Gallagher.
So have others been jeopardising the inquiry when they have answered
Senator
questions
Gallagher, that
here?
is not what I'm saying. I am in the circumstance that I am in, and I've made the judgment, the call. I'm not going to jeopardise or prejudice the inquiry.
Ms Higgins wants answers. She learns things through these hearings, things that she doesn't know.
Senator Gallagher?
Senator Gallagher,
she wants
would you
answers.
proceed with the questions if we have questions
that
to
would be
proceed
helpful.
with? Otherwise,
Yes,
we
okay.
will move on to
Thank you,
somebody
Chair.
else
Well,
to ask questions.
I'd still like the legal advice. You haven't taken it on notice. If you say the AFP advice is already...
The AFP advice has been on the public record for at least 2 months.
Well, can I just be clear then? The position you're articulating here in response to Senator Gallagher's questions, where she is, I think, quite clear that the position you're taking is not consistent with that of your colleague, the Leader of the Government in the Senate, not consistent with the President, not consistent with the AFP Commissioner, not consistent with the Department of Defence, that the decision not consistent with the position that the Department of Parliamentary Services has taken. So you are taking a different position to all of those entities. Yes, you are. Let me finish. I hadn't finished. Please.
That is not correct.
It is correct. I asked the Department of Defence questions of fact, and they answered them. Senator Gallagher has asked questions for days in different committees. So the position you are taking of a blanket refusal to answer is a different one. So that's the first point. My question is, I understand from your evidence that the basis on which you assert that different standard is precisely the same advice from the AFP that has been provided to all of those individuals and entities. There's no specific different advice to you, is that correct?
So, Senator Wong, let me...
Can you answer that question?
Well, in fact, if you stop talking over me, Senator Wong, I'd be happy to. You weren't here for the first...
No, that's true.
You weren't here for the first lot of questions, Senator Wong, and the Chair actually consulted me because the Chair was going to rule that the questions were out of order. I said I was happy to answer the questions. I answered the questions that I believed I could answer, but I am not asserting that I'm in the same circumstance as anybody else, and I'm certainly not asserting about anybody else whether they should or shouldn't have given the responses that they did. What I'm saying in my own circumstance is I am currently discussing this with the Australian Federal Police. I'm finalising a statement for them, and it covers all of these matters. And I'm certainly not going to air those matters publicly in this forum before I've finished my statement and before the AFP have had the opportunity to finalise and about what I've said. So that is still underway. Now, as I said, you can ask me those questions, but I am not going to aerate them here publicly today because I do not want to prejudice the case, and it would be the wrong thing to do. It is as simple as that.
Senator Reynolds, on the 16th of February, you told the Senate that the second staff member was terminated very shortly after the incident. Finance has now confirmed that the male staffer was not terminated until the 5th of April. That's 2 weeks later. And Finance have also confirmed they weren't asked for advice around termination until the 4th of April. So 9 days after your Chief of Staff became aware of Ms Higgins' alleged rape. So do you stand by that he was terminated very shortly after?
Senator Gallagher, I stand by what I said in the Senate, but
so
I also...
10 days is very short.
Just, if you ask me a question, please give me the courtesy of answering before you talk over me, please, Senator Gallagher. I stand by those statements, but again, those matters are at the heart of things that are addressed in my statement to the AFP, which I'm still discussing with the AFP. So it is not appropriate for me to discuss this further.
Why did it take 9 or 10 days to terminate this staff member?
Senator Gallagher, again, that goes...
That's subject to police investigation too, is it?
Absolutely, it's absolutely part of the matters relating to my statement.
Senator Gallagher, these questions aren't relating to the portfolio as you indicated earlier.
They relate to Senator Reynolds and her...
And there is an opportunity in the Senate in a week's time.
And it has financial implications, I presume, which will be being met from the public purse. So I think it's entirely reasonable that the Estimates Committee is able to get an understanding of this. Senator Reynolds, we also found out there'd been a meeting between your office, Mr Hawke's office, the Prime Minister's office, on the 4th of April, the day before this staffer was terminated. What's your knowledge of that meeting?
Again, Senator Gallagher, this is again a matter that relates to the investigation and to my statement, and I'm not going to jeopardise that inquiry in any way.
So it sounds to me like that what you're putting to us here is that things that occurred 10 days after the alleged incident are also subject to the police investigation.
Senator Gallagher, I'm not...
Is that what your evidence is?
Senator Gallagher, what I'm saying is that all of these matters are subject of my discussions with the AFP, and I am not going to prejudice the inquiry. I'm just simply not.
You're simply not going to answer or provide information.
So, Senator Gallagher...
You're the person who has avoided, out of all of this, has avoided answering or providing information about your state of knowledge or any facts related to this matter.
Senator Gallagher, that is absolutely not true.
It is absolutely true.
Senator Gallagher, I did answer your questions to the point that you ground me to the ground and ended up in hospital. But I'm back here. I'm answering questions. Answering questions, and I'm assisting. So I'm assisting the AFP with their inquiries. Senator Wong, please don't talk. Senator Wong, please do not. Please do not talk over me, Senator Wong. It's not appropriate to talk over me.
Well, Ms Higgins, Senator Wong,
well, you just alleged that we put you in hospital. That I put you in hospital, Senator Reynolds. You should withdraw.
Well, if
so, you're the victim, not Ms Higgins. Is that what
Order.
it is?
Senator Wong, that's not
Nobody
what I'm
takes pleasure in asking these questions. Nobody takes pleasure in asking these questions.
I'd like to respond to that. That was an imputation.
Having two senators yell at me at the same time.
I'm sorry. Well, I don't propose to yell at you. Okay. I will say this though.
Senator Wong.
We would have been far happier if you had come into the Senate and given a comprehensive statement, which would have been the right thing to do. You did not.
Senator
and
Wong.
so we were forced to ask you questions that Ms Higgins wanted asked. And even today, Key factual errors in your statements to the Senate have not been explained.
Senator
So
Wong.
please don't blame us for the fact that we were required to
Senator
ask
Wong,
you
do you have
questions
a
because of
question,
your
please?
failure
Senator Wong.
to be upfront and transparent about key facts here. And that failure, which is continuing
Senator
today.
Wong.
No, I don't
Senator
have a
Wong,
question. I'm
Senator
responding
Wong,
to that
I'm go-
accusation.
I am
Sure.
going to...
Fine.
Is there a question in there somewhere?
No,
There's-
I'm
okay,
responding to that.
Okay,
Senator Wong.
Chair.
Senator Reynolds.
Okay,
Chair, I've been very clear that my primary focus is to ensure that I assist the AFP inquiry into this matter. I'm doing that. I'm doing that very fulsomely. The issues are extensive and I'm dealing with those with the AFP and I'm not going to compromise the inquiry. So that's it.
So I'm going to ask
You
that any
have
further questions Senator
responsibility.
Gallagher
Oh,
be
I do
placed on
have-
notice.
I do have, and I have
Senator
been sitting
Gallagher,
here for hours.
Senator Gallagher, you could have asked them in
responsibilities to the
cross-portfolio
Senate as
if
well.
you believed
You have
that they had any
responsibilities
relevance to the
Senate as a
portfolio.
minister in
Senator
this
Gallagher,
government.
Senator Gallagher, I am the chair of this committee and I
I'm
am
aware
speaking
you're the
to
chair,
you. I am
Senator
speaking to
Askew,
you.
and we've been working very cooperatively, and
I've been-
it is my intention to continue to do that. My final question, Senator Reynolds, was it your decision to send Ms Higgins to Perth for the duration of the election campaign?
Senator Gallagher, again.
That's also subject to police
Senator-
investigation. How handy?
Sen-
And that was your final question. Thank
Senator
you.
Gallagher, that was beneath you.
Well, don't give me a lesson in that,
Senator
Senator
Gallagher.
Reynolds,
Please
after
don't-
what
please
you've
don't-
accused me of.
Order.
Please don't give me a
before.
lesson in
I'm going
ethics.
to go
No.
now.
I know
taking
where
it
this
from you.
started.
I am now
Hey?
going to go to Senator Sheldon and give him the
I was
call
told.
to return to his
What?
questioning.
I beg your pardon?
No, Chair.
Order.
No, Chair. She's
sorry,
just
she
made an
made it-
imputation on the Hansard. we'd like to understand what she's just said.
You said I know where this
I know where
started.
this started. What do you mean?
Senator Wong, if you want, I really don't think we should be doing this here, but if you want me to do that.
Yes, I think...
I was told by one of your senators 2 weeks before about what you were intending to do with the story in my office, 2 weeks before.
Oh, I had no knowledge of this until...
No one had any knowledge.
Okay.
I had no
We
knowledge
will-
of
one of
this.
your-
How dare you?
Order. Now we will
It's
move...
all about
we will
protecting
either-
yourself.
We may suspend if we're going to continue down this
Really?
path. Otherwise, I'm happy to pass the call to Senator Sheldon
Yes,
to
really.
continue his lines of questioning. If not, we will suspend for a private
Yeah,
meeting.
let's do that.
We will suspend. We will suspend for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Sorry about that.